Hi everyone, I'm your host, Sister Jenna, and today we have a really special guest, which I really want us to pry into her life and her journey of such triumph and courage and perseverance. But before I go into that, I think it's time that we really begin to look at getting prepared for a new year and a new version of ourselves. To be able to see what are the things that are just saying, I don't need you anymore inside my head. And it can be really a difficult period for you, but it could be so enlightening as well. Where maybe that same thing was holding you back for so long that if you had just let it go 10 years ago, you'd have been flying even more today. But of course, if you were to let it go 10 years ago, you would have. Maybe this is your time to begin to do a really deep soul review and to begin to amplify a different version, a lighter version, the purer part of you. I know that I'm feeling a great sense of going on inside of my consciousness that the soul is saying, you don't need that anymore. And all the different trappings that's connected to my consciousness or interpretation. We need to move into living in our heads like we're entering into a Garden of Eden, where there's positivity, purity, peace, safety, protection, cooperation, unity, respect, but even more than that, humility. Our special guest today, Maryam Morrison, is the founder and publisher of and editor-in-chief of the Eden magazine, which I have the fortune to grace the cover in their September issue. She's an altruist and an animal activist who was born and raised in Tehran, Iran. Got so much to go right into, Maryam. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and you fascinate me. Can I tell you?
Thank you, Sister Jenna. Thank you for having me. It's truly my honor to be here with you and everybody.
Well, thank you for also recognizing the quality of my life, which tends to be a more quiet, introspective, yet very active life on the world level, and being able to feature me on the September cover. I was very, very humbled and touched by your intuition, even though you knew nothing of me at the time. So I understand that you left Tehran and you settled in Rome, Italy during your teenage years when Tehran was going through a really tough time. They were going through a revolution. Tell us a little bit about this period of your life and how was it impacting you internally as a teenager?
Well, as you mentioned, it was really tough. So I grew up in the time of the Shah of Iran, Pahlavi, which is life was completely different. So suddenly I'm a teenager and the revolution happened and all the life that I knew went to be unfamiliar. So I was not understanding what is going on. So with everything happened, my parents and I decided it's time to go leave the country, which was the really saddest one because I had that profound attachment to my hometown. I love Iran, everything about it, the beauty, and I mean, it's just home. So I went to Rome. I stayed in Rome 2.5 years. And that was also another tough time for me. I love Rome. I love Italian. I felt really easy to be connecting with these people. They're very similar to the Iranian. But then, you are in a new culture.
And to Indians too, I have to tell you, don't forget. Sonia Gandhi is from Italy.
Definitely Italian. I mean, I think Middle Eastern part of the Middle East and Mediterranean, they share very similarity in many different ways. So, but then you talking about different culture also in somehow and different language. So here I am. I have to learn the language, which is I love Italian language. So I guess that was kind of easy. And it was all good, you know. I mean, it was good. It has that kind of ups and downs, but I learned a lot. I learned that if I can make it to this one, then in the future, when something bigger comes in my life, then I be easy to face
You
it.
can manage it. But then later on, didn't you move to Germany to study business? And how old were you at that time? What was it that pulled you to Germany to study business?
Well, I lived 2.5 years. I live in Rome. Then I went back to Iran to visit my family. I think it was actually the next day when I arrived to Iran. Saddam, because we were just started, unfortunately, a war between Iran and Iraq. So the next day when I arrived to Tehran, Saddam's military bombed our airport. So my dad said, "Okay, we're not one of those people that going through the mountain, because a lot of people were uh, taking that route, you know." So I stayed in Iran. Not that I choose to do, but I stayed in Iran until 85. That was 80, so 5 years. 5 years I stayed in Iran, and then again, everything changed. The relationship that Iran had with the foreign country, they all changed. So I went back to get the visa when the airport was open. I went to get the visa to go back to Italy because I have all my stuff. My cousin lived there at that time. I told him, I said, put them in the storage. So I went to get the visa. That didn't work out, again, because of the relationship between Iran's government with the others. So somehow I got the visa for Germany. And that's how my journey started in Germany. And here I am. I'm back to 5 years ago. New culture, new language. Here I am back to the zero, learning everything there. And then
Don't you love how life unfolds? You have a plan, but the universe has another plan for you. But didn't you end up like working on a US military base where you actually met your husband currently?
well, actually, I met my husband before that, but during the same time was that, yeah, I finished studying in Germany, and then I just got the job in the military base. So I was working there, and then my husband, during the time, I didn't met her while I was working at the base, but in the same time. And then we married 1989. And that was another journey started.
Was it difficult for a woman from Tehran? Then you lived in Italy for a few years, you learned Italian, you went back home with plans to go back and to just explore the journey of your life. Was it challenging to be a military wife and, make a lot of adjustments?
Yes, it was, because it was not, I'm not regretting it. I loved, of course, I feel everything that happens to our life, it happens for the reason. I feel there was no accident that I was kind of moved from Rome to Germany and then married a military person. And then it was challenging because it was not my life. I never had my life. I never could start my career. I never really could go to continue education, because we were moving every 2 years. We moved into the place that we didn't choose to move, that was chosen for us. So it was difficult. It was difficult. And then this the fear of, my husband was gone most of the time, and the fear of the places he stayed. He was in Bosnia, I think it was for 6-7 years. So Bosnia at that time was not really a good place to go. He was in Somalia for a while. So every time we had someone knock the door, I was like thinking like, oh my God,
The letter.
it's
Yeah. Yeah, I can
exactly.
imagine.
So the fear, this uncertainty, and the uncertainty of what the life coming next, where we're moving, all that was another challenge in my life. But
You overcame it anyway. Would you say that maybe the greatest challenge was your ability to surrender?
certainly,
Mm.
certainly, I accept. There is something good in there for me. I remember I was sitting on the couch. I was in Germany by myself, and my husband at the time was in Bosnia. He called me and he said, "Oh, we're moving back to state." I'm like, I just had deep breath, and I'm like, "Oh my God, where?" Another unknown place, and I'm said, "Okay." But I said myself with an open mind. I said, "Okay, where?" He goes, "We're moving to Savannah, Georgia," and I'm like, okay, I have no idea, what the life is there is, and I said, Maryam, you embracing this with love and you trusting universe that there is a path that is your path to go to Savannah, Georgia. And that's where I got involved to become a pet trainer, animal rescuer. So I needed to be there.
Good. Now, animals and pets are a very big part of your life. And I have the cutest dog in the world called
Yeah.
Puppy. And you spent a great deal of time rescuing, training, and working with animals. So, did you have that quality in Tehran before, or was that something that emerged in you? And the second question was, what were the feelings? What was it that you were discovering about Maryam that, really made this a lifelong passion of yours?
Well, no, I didn't have this. I mean, I love animal. I grew up in the house that we always had a pet, cat mostly, and sometimes I think the dog too. But then, my parents always, feeding the stray dogs, and then, the compassion for animal was always part of where I grew up, but never were involved as I was involved in the back 20 years ago, until I moved actually to Savannah, Georgia. And that started when we were sitting having a breakfast and I saw a stray dog in my backyard. And then I'm like, and my husband, I remember he was in the uniform, he was ready to go somewhere. I think it was back in Bosnia was. And then he goes, I'm like, oh my God, there's a stray dog. We got to do something. He goes, honey, I have to go. I mean, I cannot wait. So he is gone, and my mom was living with us at that time. And then so I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Give him food? I don't have any dog food, so whatever we have in the house. And then I saw the neighbor with a pistol and the trap, trying to trap this dog, and it was all new. This is like, okay, what's going on? Fear, concern, everything wrap around. And I just jump outside. I said, what do you think? He goes, oh, it's a stray dog. They usually have rabies. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Please don't shoot them. Don't trap them. I got it. Back then there was no iPhone, and so I opened the phone book and I looking for the name for the rescue, and then there was not many rescuer back in that time in Savannah, Georgia. So it was like maybe two, three. So I saw the name, it said Save a Life. And I'm like, ooh, I like that. And I contact them, and it's so interesting. The person who pick up the phone has this accent, and I'm telling her about what's happening, and she's explaining, okay, no worry, we got it, we can help you. And then in between, I asked her, I said, well, you have an accent. Where are you from? She goes, I'm from Germany. I'm like, Oh my God, this is like so interesting. So um, we start speaking German, and then she came to my house and helped me to trap the dog. And then he said, "Well, you need a foster." I'm like, "What is that?" "Oh, you fostering an animal," and she went through all the detail, and that's exactly how my journey started with rescuing, fostering animals.
Folks, can you imagine? Maryam and her husband have rescued over 300 cats and dogs who had been severely abused. What, Maryam, has been your takeaway from that experience, and what did it say about the current state of our humanity?
Um, I had to say, it taught me that we should be more, it's more, we hear more than just we think. We here to give as much as we take. I learned that we need to um, connect with others, and then our journey is not just to simply be here and follow our path. We have to follow our path, but we have in the same time we have to pay attention. Like for example, I listen that when, as I said and mentioned before, when my husband called and said we're going to Savannah, Georgia, I openly allow universe to tell me why I'm going to Savannah, Georgia out of all those places. Because we were supposed to stay one more year in Germany, and all of a sudden the plan changed. And I realized like the plan changed because I have to be to Savannah, Georgia for the reason. And I find out one of the reason was to learn about to saving animal, because I feel always being a military wife, I always feel, because it was like always new beginning, new place, I always felt that there is something missing in my life. I'm not doing what I supposed to do. And then when you sending this message over and over to the universe, when I was meditating, I was thanking for who I am and what I have, and my husband and my mother and everybody around me. But I was saying to the divine that there is something is missing in my life. I feel like I'm not doing what I have to do. And then here's my path lead to that. So
Mhm.
everybody has to listen to their own
Inner
voice and
voice, yeah, that
down
quiet inner voice.
exactly why we here, what do we need to do, whether helping, for me was helping animal, for someone helping the elderly, a child, anyone, I'm sure we all here for a reason. There is no other explanation.
So, from working with animals to starting your own magazine, because in 2010 you started Eden Magazine, which mission is really about elevating people's consciousness. Like, what is it that led you to, opening up your own magazine, and such a beautiful one at that?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Well, I had a small magazine, print magazine, when I was in Savannah, Georgia, and it was strictly about working with a different rescuer to helping to find a good home for animals. So when we moved to Los Angeles, and at that time we were battling with my mom's Alzheimer, and I did not want to place her in any homes for the Alzheimer. I said, we come from the different culture. Moms always stays with us. So, and my husband, he supported that. So, and I couldn't go out working. I'm a graduate as a graphic designer, and I had a magazine. I was rescuing animals. But I told my husband, I was meditating one day, and I felt like, there is more, that part is being done, rescuing animal, and then working on the magazine that's helping the rescuer to find a good home. But then I felt like there is something bigger. So I said, I want to start a magazine not only focusing on helping the animal, but in the broader, wider range. Opening the consciousness life for all living being and living in a conscious life to heal our own self. We heal ourselves, then we heal the other. If this body, if this temple of ours is not healthy, we cannot produce a healthy journey for the others. So that's how the Eden magazine started. So I thought, okay, I can start a digital magazine, which is, I think, Eden magazine was one of the few magazines back in 2010 that started digital. I did a research and I'm like, oh, you can start the magazine online and I can work on the magazine and watch mom, which is a work perfect.
It's perfect setup, huh? It's interesting,
Yeah.
everyone. I remembered when I got my copy of the Eden magazine, on the digital one, and it's dynamic, it's colorful, it's bright, but nothing compared to the print copy that I had received. It was just
Really.
something in the print that when you held that magazine in your hand, it brought it more to life. And so I just want to send out a little advertisement there that if you guys go and get Eden Magazine, try to see if you can get the print copy. It's just fascinating. Well, since Eden Magazine is a nonprofit, how can we help to support it?
Well, anyway, you mentioned one. Purchase the magazine, and you can donate to the Eden magazine. We help many charities, and if you go to our website, you can see that the recent one was last year. We provided meals, 120 meals for frontliners, just as a thank you for what they went through the COVID. I mean, oh my God, I cannot imagine how difficult it was for these doctors and nurses. A friend of mine, she lives in Florida. God bless her heart. She's a nurse and she's a head nurse in ER. And she sent me the picture of her wearing the mask after taking the mask off. I mean, I saw the mark in her face. I couldn't stop crying. And I said, oh my God, we were complaining about 1 year we stayed home. Nothing compared what these people went through, seeing the death, seeing this pain and sorrow, dealing with the family members who the loved one is in the ICU. I mean, and I said to myself, and then I talked to the team, and we all said, we need to do something. We need to do something that to say thank you for being here and taking care of us. That's what we decided. I wish if we had, for example, if people donated, then we could have do much more. But the budget that we had, we could just serve one hospital.
Hey, one hospital is better than none. And I think that's one of the myths that we need to break away from, that if we can't do the millions of lives or impact the millions, and what is my purpose of just doing it for one or two people? Do it. Do it for one or two people. Because if everybody thought like that, there will never be world hunger. There will not be peacelessness. People would become better neighbors to one another. Just do it. Just do it. Just get involved. So, Maryam, we've talked about you rescuing the animals, saving your life, moving from Tehran to Italy because of the revolution, and then ending up going back to Tehran, not being able to travel because Iraq had bombed your airport. And then you ended up in Germany, went to school, studied, met the love of your life, moved to Atlanta, Savannah, Georgia, took care of over 300 cats and dogs, opened up your own magazine. What's next? What's next for you? What's calling you right now?
I have to say, I'm happy. I'm really happy where I am. I love what I'm doing. I love Eden Magazine. It's my baby. Every month when I sit behind this computer, I design the whole magazine myself. We have wonderful, amazing team that I love every one of them. I have to mention Dina Morona's name here. She is basically the whole magazine goes with me and Dina, and we do it together. We have Alexia Meloki. We have amazing photographer, makeup artist, Edward Hakopian. I mean, the list goes on. And then on top of that, we have a great contributor writers. Who some of them they've been with me for I say almost 10 years. And so the next, I just want to continue doing what we're doing and helping the others, helping our charities. And I actually started it 2000. I think it was 2016. Was I started the Eden Award. We giving award to all those people who make the difference, have a charity, and unfortunately we couldn't continue because of the COVID, and then we couldn't. It was so many different things, but I would like to continue to have that award going with the help of the others too, so we can basically give the award to those people who they need to know they making a difference in this world, and thank them. And I hope people supporting us with sending us great articles, advertising in our magazine, and then just simply writing an email said, how we doing, how can we make ourselves better, is anything that is missing that we need to do we don't know. That's how I think the next journey can go.
Can you leave us with a website where we can find more information about you in Eden Magazine?
Yes, is www.deedenmagazine.com.
Sounds absolutely perfect. Well, all I can say, you're amazing, you're phenomenal, you're great, you're wonderful, and continued success in everything that you choose to do or everything that the universe calls you to do. It might be a nice idea to do your Eden Award online, just like the Emmys and the Grammys. I was fascinated. My good friend Louis Gossett, who was nominated for his role in a new television sitcom, It's Missing Me, Watchman, and where Regina King won an award for it. But the way that the Emmys actually did the award ceremony online was fascinating that they could pull it off. So maybe you and your incredible team can continue with what's passionate for you to just keep thriving and doing service for the greater good. So thank you so, so much again.
Thank
Really,
you.
from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate you wholeheartedly, unlimitedly.
Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to share my story with your audience. I truly appreciate it. I adore you, Sister Jenna. Thank you for all the wonderful work you do also for the humanity.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, everyone, you've gotten it right here. The wonderful Maryam Morrison from Eden Magazine and all of her work that she's done with helping to rescue our little furry friends, whether it's 2 legs or 4 legs. We've got to begin to dig deep inside of the soul to find out what has happened to our empathy and our compassion. It is a God-given gift that the soul is born with, and for some reason we throw it out the door as if it's valued nothing. But it's valued everything. And even with myself, if I've ever found myself being short and without compassion, I can feel the trauma that it's doing to my own soul. And I want to invite you to think about the kind of trauma that you inflict on your soul when you become angry, jealous, attached, fear-driven, completely out of control of your divinity and your work. To be here, your work here is to live the energy of divinity through your personality. Imagine if we were to wake up tomorrow and 7.5 billion people emanated God's love through their features. Wow, it would be the Garden of Eden. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us on America Meditating Radio, your one stop shop for some of the best conversations with some of the most prolific, incredible voices in our world. And don't forget to leave us a message, share, and let us know what you think. But also, thank you for the collaboration with our Meditation Museum, The Next Normal. I value your time, and I hope you value ours too. So sometimes just let us know how you're feeling. It gives us a chance to deepen our relationship with you. We thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Om Shanti. Take care. When I was asked by Sacred Stories Publishing to write a book on mystical divine experiences, initially I said no, those are too private. But then when they came back again to urge me to do it, I said, why not? It'll be of service, because over 25 co-authors would be joining me on this journey to share their own experiences. In meditation, intimate experiences with the divine through contemplating practices, you will read stories from our co-authors of a heartfelt clarity about a father's death giving his son a new life. You will hear the story of a woman embracing her wounded inner child and healing herself. You will even hear stories about an inexplicable medical miracle and so much more. This book has a life of its own. You will learn how listening to your inner silence can help you overcome life obstacles and reclaim your spiritual power. I hope that you'll be able to dive deep into this and maybe even explore your own mystical and divine experiences for your life to change, for your life to become one that is completely full and rich of everything good. Enjoy, and thank you for looking into meditation, intimate experiences with the divine through contemplative practices.
Of who I am, sweet divine, even when I'm living asleep, forgotten how to listen deep, you find a way to sing to me through the night. In these conversations, you help me see the way. These conversations, my unique offering. These conversations, the healing that is mine to claim. Oh, sweet divine.
Rice Alley Restaurant wishes you happy holidays. Located at 6838 Piedmont in Gainesville, Virginia. We're a family-owned restaurant and offer authentic Asian cuisine and sushi. Come, savor our delicacies made with love and enjoy the perfect ambiance. We look forward to seeing you there.